We're live.
We're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cubist podcast. Our regular host, Bill Corey, is out today due to technical difficulties, so I am taking over the show. I'm Kimberly Revia, and joined by my lovely co-hosts, Eric Buscemi,
Hello.
Patrick Hillier,
Hello.
and our guest, Bill from Calliope Games. Nope, Calliope
Calliope.
Games.
Calliope.
Just go over
How
this.
y'all doing?
Good thing we went over that off air.
Exactly. Okay, and our topic today is Gateway Games. I can't
Gateway
see the thing
games,
anymore.
next step games, and what's the difference between them?
And Beyond is what our title is.
Yeah.
All right. Eric, would you like to start us off talking about what you've played recently?
Yes, last night I played another unlock game. I played the Nautilus Traps. Unlock the Nautilus Traps. This is the third one. The first one I did was the demo. I did that at PAX Unplugged. I had a hard time with that because at PAX Unplugged it was their copy and they had it sleeved, and the lighting at the convention made it very hard to see all the hidden things on the cards because of the glare. So that was my first experience. Wasn't great. So then my second experience, I did this secret lab.
Yeah, that's what I
Something
did.
like that. And I struggled with that a little bit, but I thought, maybe because that was the first time I'd really done it, that I was just struggling to understand how the game mechanics worked, how the mechanisms all worked, and I was just doing that wrong, and that's why I was struggling. But now I did it a third time, and this is not working for me. These and I like escape rooms, and I liked the Exit series, and I liked the Werewolf Experiment escape room box. So it's definitely me and the Unlock series are like oil and water. So I'm a hard pass on doing any more of the Unlock series if I can help it.
All right.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I found those to be like, Where's Waldo, the escape room versus being clever. I think I've talked about them before. I don't know if it's here or elsewhere.
So how about you, Patrick? What have you played recently?
Well, I have over here next to my can of green beans, favorite gaming snack food.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little joke from Twitter earlier.
It is. It's one of my favorite snack foods too. As I eat popcorn,
I don't think he meant canned green beans. That's where I got thrown off. What was my thing? Cat Lady is a game I just played. It just seemed fitting for tonight's subject, so I picked this up. We're a big cat family. This is by AEG. We're a big cat family in our house, and so I picked that up. It's kind of a light set collection game. So you have 9 cards that are out in rows and columns, and there's one row that you can't take from, the one with the cat in front of it, and you're collecting either sets of cat toys or cats or the food that the cats need to eat, and I'm trying to think what else. Costumes for the cats and just other silly things. The cats all have goofy names. My favorite is LeVar Burton, who's of course named after the Star Trek actor, and there's a couple other ones. So it's filled with puns, which I hate puns, and it kind of borders a little bit on kind of what we're talking about tonight. It's got some depth to it. There's some strategy. I beat my wife twice at it, and we thought it was going to be pretty light and silly, but I saw some strategy there, that some ways to win at it, some things to do on which rows to take, or taking a row, of cat toys to block her from getting the full set of cat toys because you're trying to get a unique set of all 5 different kinds and things like that. So it's actually pretty, once again, my camera's in reverse. Sorry, Chad, my toolbox is totally screwed up.
Oh, my toolbox is not working.
Yeah, the toolbox is Google Chat's all screwed up. But anyway, it's it's not a great game. It's not something. It's not what's the next level down from buy it. Play it. It's definitely a play it on the scale. If you like cats, if you like cat jokes, it's definitely worth getting. I think I paid $25 for it, but we definitely had a good time with it.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. And Bill, would you like to go next or would you like me to?
No, I can go next.
All right. Have at it.
Yeah, my last time to actually play games was, we're meeting with some people showing off some of our new titles. So mine are actually my own games. We spent time with a game called Hive Mind. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a game by a designer named Richard Garfield. I don't know if you've heard of him. He did this little thing called Magic the Gathering and a few other things. So you might be familiar with him.
Yeah.
It's a trivia game for people who don't know or don't like trivia or trivia games. The MacGuffin of the game comes down to we're all bees in a hive, and the queen has decided that winter is coming, and there's not enough food in the hive, so somebody's got to leave. And really, she wants the bees that are going to get along and are taking part in that hive mind. So the questions are basically things like name 3 candy bars with nuts in it. And you're writing down 3 answers, and you're trying to pick answers that you think the most people in the group will pick. So you're trying to get an answer that people are going to match.
So like Family Feud.
Well, kind of like that. But the idea is it's whereas many of these trivia games are trying to get you to come up with the most clever, outlandish answer that no one else is going to do. The purpose of this game is to try to figure out what this particular group is going to say. And when we get into the topic in a little bit about gateway games, I'll probably talk a little bit more about that. But it's really it's a fun game because it's really about the experience that you're having with this group of people. And I've seen people. I've shown the game to people at conventions, and very quickly it turns into a drinking game. And I was teaching it one time at Origins. I was teaching it to a group of 10, 11-year-old kids because their parents wanted babysitting. And, one of the questions came up, name 5 places you stand in line. So I was writing the ATM, the DMV, the post office, the movie theater, things like that. I was reading my answers, and nobody was matching me because these are all 11-year-old kids. And the very first kid, he reads his answer, he says the swings. Like everyone's hand goes up. So they're all scoring these points. And on the first, it's like, oh, man, I can't believe it. But then all of a sudden, I got drawn into the game even more, because now it's this challenge of, can I figure out what these kids are going to say? So it really made the experience a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be.
So Bill, there was a good question in the comment in the chat room about this sounding like apples to apples, but there's no voting, right? This is just whoever comes up with the most answers that match.
Right. So the thing about apples to apples, I love the game, is I'm trying to figure out what I think the specific judge is going to say. But if 5 of us are playing the game, and the question is, again, name 5 candies with nuts, my first one is going to be Snickers. Well, if everyone says Snickers, if all 5 of us say Snickers, we each get 5 points. But then I say Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. And you go, well, that doesn't have nuts. And I say, yeah, it's got peanut butter. And you go, oh, that's really clever. But no one else thought of it. So I'm going to get 1 point. So, it doesn't pay off to be the iconoclast and be clever. It pays off to kind of get into the mind of the other players, which is, what the whole communal experience of a game is about, is, kind of bringing yourself into that world of that game. So it's, the biggest complaint I always have with apples to apples is when the judge doesn't realize how brilliant my answer was. And, Richard got rid of that problem, because really it comes down to, what do I think the group's going to say?
Right,
now,
exactly.
Speaking of a group and groupthink, what's the player range on this? I'm assuming you need at least a bunch of people for this.
It's 3 to 12 officially, because there's actually 12 little beeples in it, B-shaped meeples. But I mean, if you're going to use coins or whatever, if you can play on teams, you can go even more than that. But the game is designed for 3 to 12. And one of the nice things about Calliope Games, all of our games, when you open the box, it's ready to play. There's no punching. There's no getting stuff. The game comes with 12 pencils and a pad of paper and all the questions, a timer. Also, if you don't like sand timers, there's a free download on all the various places where you can get a Hive Mind 2-minute timer. And really, the only reason the timer was in there is because, we all have that one guy in the group that takes too long. So if you have that problem, you can use the timer. Most of the time, everyone's written their answers within. So,
hey, is this available in the UK?
It is available wherever fine games are sold.
Okay, because somebody just tweeted this earlier today for 12-player games in a social situation, and this seemed perfect. I just got to find the tweet from 3 hours ago.
Absolutely. If your game store doesn't have it, just have them order it. It's available with the major distributors in UK and in Europe.
Yeah.
Nice. And Bill, on the Cubist scale.
Does he know the Cubist scale?
I don't
What's
know.
the
I'm going to
Cubist
say
scale?
it. On the Cubist scale of buy it, play it, forget it, and burn it. Is that it?
Bling it.
Bling it.
No. It's just the four.
No, I thought there was an official.
No, that was not official.
didn't.
I don't think you were wearing pants when you said that.
Oh, yeah. There was an episode where Patrick was half naked. You missed it.
Just stop it. No. I thought there was an official revision that Bill was going to put on a new shirt.
Possibly.
Anyway, moving on.
But on the Cubist scale, we'll skip the bling it just in case. Buy it, play it, forget it, or burn it, as in throw it in the trash, set it on fire.
Absolutely buy it.
Okay, sounds good.
Expected answer, but that's okay.
I mean, we'd be surprised if you didn't say buy it, really. Okay, and I played Elysium yesterday for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Is that what the columns?
Won my Twitter poll for what I should discuss tonight. So Elysium came out in 2015, designed by Matthew Dunstan and Brett Gilbert, published by Space Cowboys, who is now Asmodee. It is set collection. What is that face?
They're talking about the hat thing over the chat room.
Oh, I'm not looking. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It's a pretty interesting, quick playing little game, Elysium. I would probably rank it a play it on the Cubist scale. I'm glad I finally got it off and I want to play this.
Collection one with the little columns.
Yes, yeah, you vote with a little column thing or you have to have that color in order to get a card of that color, but you don't have to spend that color. Yeah. Which is an interesting little thing because you're each taking cards every round. So you have to try to guess what you think the others were going to take. We played 3-player. We played it in maybe 45 minutes to an hour with the teach. It was good. Solid. Definitely a game I would play again. I'm not going to rank it a buy it just because I really probably wouldn't buy it. So
yeah, I thought it was okay. It came out about the same time as Deus.
It was good. Yes,
and Deus. I liked Deus a little bit better.
Matt and Dave, who I played it with, were talking about that a little bit, how they thought Deus overshadowed it, even though the play is absolutely nothing alike.
I know, it's just the Greek theme and
the theme, and it just kind of overshadowed it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Now let's get on to the topic at hand, kids.
So I think we should start by I'd like to hear everyone's 1 minute definition of what a gateway game is, how you define a gateway game. Because I'm not even sure we'll have a consensus here.
I can start.
Player. Okay.
My wife is not a big time gamer. Her level of gaming is draw a card and play a card. And that's what she considers. And those are the kinds of games she likes to play, what she considers gateway games. Anything more heavier than that, I mean, she'll play them. She's played Terraforming Mars. I'm not saying that she won't play them, but those, I mean, there's nights when she goes, those are the kinds of games I want to play. And I guess that's what I consider the gateway games. Even something as simple as Ticket to Ride, what you're doing, right? You're drawing a card, and
you're either drawing or playing.
Trying to collect a set, and then eventually you'll play that set and put down a train. Yeah. But she just likes really simple, kind of straightforward rule sets where you don't have to worry too much about it. And that's what I think of as gateway games. I don't really have a strong firm.
I want to jump. I'm just piggyback on that. I agree with most everything Patrick said, especially since my wife is similar in her taste for lighter games that are easy to explain to her. But I think another aspect of it, even a simple game like Risk is a very simple game, but that can take hours and hours and hours to play. So I think a gateway game also has to have a time aspect. 30 to 45 minutes. I feel seems to fit right into that perfect. Oh, we're not gamers, so we're not going to be used to sitting down and playing a game for the rest of the day. but anyone can carve out 30 to 45 minutes in between dinner and dessert, or at a family gathering during a lull or something like that. So that would be my additional caveat to that. How about you guys? What do you think?
I can agree with that.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree with that too.
for me, and again for Calliope, because this is really our wheelhouse. That's what we do is Gateway Games. We really see Gateway as having kind of two important aspects. The first aspect is that mechanically it's simple to explain and it's simple to execute, so that a person who's not used to the various mechanics can kind of come in. You can explain it in 30 seconds. They get what they're supposed to do. They may not get all the strategy, but they understand the mechanics of how it's supposed to work, and it's accessible. But the second aspect to the Gateway, in my opinion anyway, is that it's significantly more about the social aspect, in the sense that when I'm playing a midweight Euro with my friends who all play midweight Euros, the whole thing is like, I'm trying to figure out the puzzle. I'm trying to figure out how this works. What's the cleverest way? How the mechanics are going to work? And I'm really a lot into my head, and into that aspect of the game. With a Gateway, I think it's really important that Gateway Games accentuate the experience of the group. That becomes a much more important aspect of it, because the point of a Gateway is, I, the gamer, am here on Thanksgiving with a bag full of games and a room full of people who've never played these kind of games, and I want to get them to play whatever it is, the Gateway game, and because they have such a good time, and to go to that next level. So, we just put out a game called Ancestry by Eric Lang. It's a tile drafting game, and it's 20 minutes, 25 minutes. The mechanics are simple. A gamer can play it as well, because there's a lot of hidden strategy that they'll start to pick up on. And at the end of that game, they go, "That was great. What else is like that?" And I go, "Well, if you like that, let me show you Seven Wonders." And it kind of introduces them to the mechanic, lets them want to go on to the next one, but also gives them experience that they really enjoyed and they want to repeat and they want to expand on. So that's what I would add to I think you both you're spot on, but I'd add that aspect to it.
I want to just jump in with the chat room. Matt Roy says he's not against playing Gateway Games. He's just against the concept, because it becomes a weird gatekeeping thing, as if you're judging that they can't understand a game because it's beyond their non-gaming mind. So, well, how would you address Matt on that point?
Who's that? Me?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, you're the expert here.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue what you're saying, but again, what I think it comes down to is the comfort zone of the people. I remember I was trying to explain drafting to my mom, who did not play games and didn't like, they're all too, that typical, "Oh, these are too hard. These are too complicated. I don't get it." And this was, I don't know, 5 years ago or 3 years ago. I can't remember the exact time period. But I said, "Well, let me show you a game." And I brought out Sushi Go. And we sat down. I explained how it was played. First round, she really felt uncomfortable. Second round, she was feeling a little better. Third round, she was getting it. But, it was kind of that, I know I'm not going to win. We got to the end of the game, and she won by 2 points against, 6 people, most of which had played some games before. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I won. That was really good." And I like the fact that, I had to figure out what cards I should take and what cards should I give, and, kind of picking up on that. So it was really a matter of, the audience member who, not necessarily that I'm thinking down about, but rather the person who's thinking down about their experiences. And like you said, they played Risk when their kids were playing games, and they're like, I don't like games. And
well, sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
So Trevin jumped in and said that there's a certain base knowledge that's required. And to go off your Sushi Go example, I have an anecdote. I sat down at I think it was a Thanksgiving with my parents and my godparents, and I brought out Sushi Go as well. And I dealt out all the cards, and my godmother asked me which sushi was Trump. And then I tried to explain that everyone was going to have to hand our cards over to an expert, and I had a lot of trouble explaining Sushi Go
Sure.
because they are huge like Pinochle and Hearts players.
Yeah.
So they were just waiting for us to throw in tricks and like who was gonna take that. And I was like, no, they stay in front of you. Just
yeah. I
But,
was trying
you
to
know,
teach Hanabi to my brother, and he didn't understand the idea of a co-op. Who wins?
Oh,
You know, I don't
Well,
get
and
this.
very foreign
you know,
concept, the cooperative game, to a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, to the person who maybe only has that experience of cards, one of the nice things is, you know, you bring out a game like Ticket to Ride and you tell them, we're going to play gin, but with trains. And you know, you laugh when you say that, but when you actually think about it, what am I doing in gin? I'm collecting sets and then I'm laying them down to score points. And you know, if a person who has that experience of gin could jump into a Ticket to Ride and say, oh, okay, I see. This is like this and that's like that. Okay, let's play.
And I think also circling back to Matt Roy's point, I think it's also how you treat the people that you're trying to play games with. If you're not bringing it up to them in an insulting manner, and you're just, you know, if you have some situational awareness. I know, like I said, when I play with my family, I bring out very light symbol things because I have a gauge on what they're going to be interested in. But I mean, the first game I ever played with my cousin Nick was Firefly the game, and that took us 3 hours to play, and that, you know, eats up a whole table. And I mean, it's not a complicated game, but it's certainly not what I think most people would think of it as a gateway. But he is a huge science fiction nerd, and I knew that sort of thematic experience would be something that he would love, even never having played that style of game.
Right.
That makes sense. I think it varies pretty wildly for a lot of people.
Yeah, and someone also in the room was saying that the Puerto Rico can be a gateway game, just to be depending on your audience.
Yep, I think so. I really think, I mean, I work with kids and I teach games too. Middle schoolers and high schoolers on a regular basis, many of whom have played some hobby board games, but plenty of them who never have touched anything before. And what they gravitate toward and would like to play and interest them varies very wildly. Sometimes it's code names. I've played that with lots of kids. Ticket to Ride, Suro. Sometimes it's Castles of Burgundy. I mean, it varies.
Yeah. And the other aspect of it, I think that will definitely change the experience a lot is, you know, we were at PAX Unplugged showing games, and these kids came up with their grandparents, and the kids wanted to play games, and the grandparents kind of had that look on like, all right, let them do their thing. This isn't our thing. And I invited them to play one of our games called Menu Masters, which is a worker placement game, and there's a you know there's a money management aspect. It's really about worker placement. And I said, let me show you this game. And the grandmother said, no, I'm not really a gamer. And I said, let me ask you a question. Do you like cooking? And she says, well, yeah, I do that. I said, well, let me show you this game because this is all about cooking and making menus. And, you know, I have found a lot of times when you're trying to introduce that game, if I can tell the story of the game and if they get interested that way, they'll give you a little bit more room that they might otherwise do. You know, finding games that are thematic and tell a story, you know, that's an aspect of Gateway that I think really helps, you know, get person interested and enjoy the game. So, you know, games that tell you a story that I'm not telling you to move this cube to here and then spend money for this thing. What I'm telling you is the train's coming to town, your relatives are on them, you're going to get them off the train, and then you're going to put them to work, you know, building a town. Now you're going, okay, I understand what we're doing now, and that story can help the mechanic be more accessible.
Speaking of mechanics, I want to switch things up a little bit. Do you feel that there are certain mechanics or mechanisms in games that are easier to teach to non-gamers than other mechanisms? And or are there some that are just fundamentally more difficult?
I was actually thinking of, let me interject. I was just thinking of games that like teach as you play. One that comes to mind is Waterdeep, where, you know, you're just starting with a couple limited spots, and then you add to the game, and it becomes more complex as you play it. Or I'm sure there's others like it, but that just came to mind as a game that teaches you as you play, and it grows and it gets more complex as you play. There's more options as you play, and that I think that makes it more accessible.
Yeah, and I actually was when I asked the question, I was actually thinking of worker placement. I think fundamentally, starting with X number of little men or women, meeples, and putting them
Or
on
beeples.
squares and getting things back in return is just such a fundamentally intuitive concept that I think it's a great place to start with simpler. I'm obviously maybe not Tricarian, which I find hard to wrap my mind around sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I go back to Stone Age as being kind of the quintessential not easy, but entry level worker placement that I see people with a lot.
Yeah, you just like the way the cup smells.
Yeah, the mechanics are accessible. That's
yes,
really
sir.
the key. I think you're probably right. I mean, I do think worker placement's always a good place to start. To me, I think what I've always found the hardest mechanic to teach is bidding, because bidding, especially depending on the style of bidding that the game has, a lot of modern bidding games really try to find a unique way to put that spin on bidding. And until you have played it, either you've played a lot of games that you've got a kind of a broad understanding of how different bidding systems work. Often until you play the game once, you don't understand the intricacies of the system, and that can really play havoc with a new player who just says, I'm just not getting this.
Yeah, you don't even know what the value is of
exactly.
Yeah, and there are definitely games where if you overbid on something the first turn, you're sitting around, sitting on your hands for the rest of the game because whoops.
Yeah.
Now, Chad in the chat room says, for non-gamers, drafting is sometimes a difficult concept to explain. And I'm glad Chad brought that up because
that's true.
Two of Bill of Calliope's recent games, actually, that are right behind Bill, Ancestry and Capital City, are both drafting games. So why don't you address how those games make drafting intuitive?
Well, one of the things about Ancestry, which I think is really nice, and what I've noticed when teaching the game, because the mechanic itself is pretty easy to teach. Usually within 5 minutes, I've got people up and running and playing the game. A lot of it has to do with giving people just enough to get them going, and then as you're running through the game, sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not, but to start kind of giving them sort of some strategy hints and whatnot. I never bring up in the game the fact that when you're playing 5 players, 6 players in Ancestry, that you're trying to collect the yellow tiles. But if you look 2 seats over on your right, that guy is playing yellow tiles. And I don't know that's kind of the levels of strategy are necessary when you're first teaching the game. That's one of the nice things about it is that there are sort of a couple of layers to it, so an experienced gamer can sort of pick that up and do it in their games or in later games. But with the new players, the nice thing about Ancestry is that it's got some specific things that you're looking for. Do I really want to look at money? Do I really want to look at collecting vertical sets of generations? Or do I want to collect the points for marriages at the end of the game? And really, it's easy for a person to sort of fit into that. And if you're not familiar with Ancestry, one of the main scoring mechanisms is similar to 7 Wonders with the war check at the end of each of the eras. So I'm comparing my Ancestry in the yellow tiles to the person on my left and the person on my right. So to some extent, it becomes an easier thing to teach because what you're telling them is, well, which of these tiles do I want? Look to the guy on your left, look to the guy on the right. What's going to help you the most? And giving them a kind of a concrete way to judge, I think, helps in that particular game with the drafting.
And I think having demoed Ancestry at PAX Unplugged, every tile you're going to get is going to give you a positive result. It may not be an optimal positive result, but you're going to get points for everything you do. So you're not going to feel punished if maybe you didn't draft ideally, and you'll just score points in a different way because it is pointality type.
Yeah, I think one of the reviews I heard was really interesting because the guy said the first time he played it, You know, he didn't exactly know what was going on. He was playing the game, and he said, you know, every time I played, I felt like I was making a pretty good choice. You know, I got to the end and I lost, but through the entire game, you know, I felt like things were going well. And I think that, you know, a mechanic like that, you know, kind of brings a person into the game. And at the end of it, they're like, wow, I didn't do it as well as I did, but let me try it again. And with a 20-minute runtime, you know, I think we see a lot of people who go, okay, I got it now, let me play it again. And obviously, no matter what the design on the game is, that's what you want at the end of the game, is the person saying, you know, let me try that again. I think I know what I did wrong.
Now, Trevin is saying in the chat room that tile laying is a good gateway mechanism, because the tiles either fit or they don't, which is true. Sometimes, you know, if you're playing a game like Isle of Skye, you bid on one thinking it fits, and then you bring it over to your board and it doesn't. So if you're like me, maybe that's just my.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of like Carcassonne, which is pretty.
Oh yeah,
classic. Pretty classic. But on the other hand,
Isle of Skye also has bidding, so that's probably definitely not the game they're talking.
That's the one they're talking about, where you screw up. But Carcassonne, you just have one tile to make it fit somewhere on the board.
Another great example of a good gateway is one I played with you, Patrick. Castles of Callidale.
Yeah,
because at any point you could rearrange the whole board if you need to. It's very forgiving.
Yes.
I haven't gotten to play that one yet. I didn't realize that.
That's a cute little game.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I should get it for my kids, actually, but.
Oh, well, there you go. I think Lines fits that pretty well. Basic tile placement, easy rule set. It's a solid one. And Honshu, card placement, also fairly simple.
Oh, there's some wonky rules in that one,
though. There's some wonky scoring in Honshu. It seems like it should be a little bit more new player friendly than it is, right? It's not quite the same. I think that my ultimate can teach pretty much anybody and have them grasp it game is Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's like Yahtzee, isn't it?
I mean, no, I think most roll and writes are more Yahtzee. Las Vegas is where you roll the dice and put them on a casino. Yep. And whoever's got the most dice on one casino. So if you roll 6 dice, I think, and if 3 of them are 3s and you want to place 3s, you have to place all 3 of your 3s on that casino. You can't pick and choose. And then whoever has the most die of their color on each casino at the end of the round wins that casino. If 2 are tied, they negate each other, and the next person wins. Or it goes to the bank if there's nobody else there. But it's a really simple, we've taught everybody basically game. I've taught a ton of kids how to play it, and my dad, Matt's family, everybody. It's really easy to grasp. You just roll dice. And I think Quicks is more the Yahtzee one, but people have that Yahtzee base usually, so roll and writes pick up pretty quickly. And sorry, my internet is terrible, so I'm waving in and out. Video, no video, voice, no voice. My apologies.
I know, this is nice talking to a giant letter C.
Yeah, baby. You're lucky you're getting this much at the moment.
Well, it's very confusing because it says C, but I don't see. So it's tough.
You just have to use your imagination.
There we go.
To see or not to see?
Oh, no, too cheesy.
Oh, I'm a dad. I'm allowed.
I was just going to say, put the dad jokes away, Eric. Put the dad jokes away.
I may not be the pun master, but I have the dad jokes. I've leveled up that part. Maybe by the time my kids are in college, I'll be a punnosaur too.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Years of practice.
So, next question I have for the group is what separates, I'm just going to use another tired term, gateway from a next step game? Where's the line? What's the kind of game that you wouldn't bring out as a gateway game that you would bring out as a next step game, and why?
Are we talking about with it for new players?
Oh, I don't know. This is just a term that comes up a lot, that this is a good next step game. So I was just wondering where we felt on exactly what is something that you wouldn't bring to a new player, but that you would bring I guess it's after they've played some of these gateway games. Where's the line that makes it a next step or a one plus game? I don't know.
I think a lot of. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'd say for me, a lot of it has to do with I just flashed on when I was a teenager, and I went to my first science fiction convention, and there was a guy there, and the question came up is, what's the difference between science fiction and fantasy? And the guy said, well, there's a lot of different things, but he says the easiest thing I always think of is this: if you changed one science rule, it's science fiction. If you change two actual science rules, it's getting close to the edge. Once you get to 3 different rules changes, it's fantasy. And I was just kind of flashed on when you asked that question, because to me, it's almost like that. If it's got one mechanic, then it's easy. If it's got 2 mechanics, yeah, you're getting close to the edge. But once you get to that 3rd mechanic, to me, you're kind of moving on to that next level, because it's kind of like that building block idea.
Oh, this is like they were saying they would always teach Sushi Go in the chat room before they would teach 7 Wonders.
Right.
So okay. So it's just a level of complexity. And Chad is saying another good qualifier is 75 to 90 minutes. So anything that pushes it over that casual time frame, it can be the same depth of play or rule set, just something that you're going to commit longer to, because that's not something I guess you want to shock someone with the first time they sit down and play a game with you. If they're
that's a really good point, because I think since I think it sounds like all of our wives are ones that will play, but they're not necessarily up for it all the time. And I know with my wife, if I tell her the runtime's over an hour, she's like going, is there anything else we can play?
Bill, so I told a few weekends ago I went to a friend's and played a Twilight Imperium 4, and I said to my wife, I'm going out to Matt's house. I'll probably be gone 6 or 7 hours. We're gonna play a game. And she, well, how many games are you playing in 6? I was just one. She's like, I don't understand. I'm like, no, I guess you don't. But she was like, there's a game that lasts that long? And I was like, that's probably not even the longest, but yeah.
It's definitely not the longest.
I was just thinking about how long it's been since I played my absolute favorite game of all time, Civilization.
There you go.
And how I despair of probably never the rest of my life, I may not ever play it again, because trying to get 6 people together to play a game that it's going to last 10 to 12 hours.
Mm-hmm. Amen, brother. We skipped over a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit about Emergence. I got 3 copies of this sitting over here. This is a gateway game, but it has huge Emergence, right? It's no thanks. So just because it's a simple game doesn't mean it's still not playable. We played this at BGG at dinner with the other Bill and Adrian Azell. And there's a lot of depth to that game. That there are rules that aren't in the game that you play that you learn over time. So I don't know what my point of that whole thing was. Just
so you're talking like emergent gameplay.
Yeah, emergent gameplay comes out. So I think that could be the next step. It's just the emergent gameplay.
Although, I think most people would accept that No Thanks is a really great gateway game.
Yes, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, and part of it has to do with the fact that the mechanic is a very simple choice.
Yes.
Do I want to take that card and all that stuff, or do I want to throw a chip on it? And that's something that is accessible. People can jump on it, and as they play, then you could see the light bulbs going off. You could see them going, oh, wait, now I don't have to take this now because this 36, no one's going to want it, and I've got the 35. And it rewards the new player by making them feel good and feel smart.
Exactly, especially when you don't tell them and they figure it out on their own.
Mm-hmm. I will say there are and No Thanks makes me think of this because it's a card game. There are gateway card games that are simple to play and that have some depth to them that I, as an experienced gamer, cannot wrap my head around.
Teach you.
Six Nymph.
Oh, I love Six Nymph.
What a great game.
I can play it just fine. I can't figure out what it is, the strategy that I'm supposed. Every time I'm like, well, this time I'm going to play just the higher cards, and this time I'm going to play just the low. No matter what I do, it's always the wrong answer. So
the answer is to play a card, right, Kimberly?
Yeah, play a something card.
Play an effing card.
Play an effing card, Eric.
And you know what? I do just
That's
as well.
the entire strategy, my dear.
Too.
I don't think I've ever met anybody that genuinely seemed like they were good at
Bill Corey seems to be has some sort of strategy going on in his mind anyway. In his mind, yes. He seems to think.
I always think that I also have some sort of strategy too.
I'm clueless. I am totally clueless, but I try. Yes. But Bill really seriously seems to think he's got something going on in Six Nymph.
Let's not allow him to continue to think that, though.
Okay.
I mean, come on now.
He once told me he was never beaten at Targi, so I immediately played him and beat him.
Oh, I think I beat him too.
He's not even here to defend himself, so take that, Bill Corey.
He'll never watch this either because he'll be sure we're inappropriate.
Oh, we always are.
We are typically inappropriate. We're sorry, new Bill.
Quite all right. We're doing great so far.
Yeah.
I'm just looking around for some heavier games.
I mean, you have El Grande behind you. That's heavier than Six Nymph.
Yeah.
Ginkopolis.
Ginkopolis is pretty heavy. That's a hard one to teach. That's a very hard game to teach.
Yeah. Well, you guys familiar with Raiders of the North Sea?
That is one of my favorite games, Bill.
And I see that as kind of a next step game. You know, for someone who's got a little bit of an experience, to me, that's like the perfect game because the mechanic is very simple. You know, drop your Viking, take the action, pick up another one. And at the heart, I mean, someone might go, well, isn't it a gateway? But, you know, you've got a couple other layers of things on there that you're planning ahead. And to me, that's like, a quintessential, maybe a next step game because it takes the easy thing and then adds the next thing on top of it.
No, that's a good point because there's a racing element to that. There's a set collection element to that. And then there's the rating and there's multiple scoring paths. No, yeah, I like that.
I'm going to say a thing that not everybody will agree with probably. I think that Lignum is kind of a next step game because it's just that follow the path and all of your action choices are fairly simple, but it steps up your forward planning significantly.
Not played it.
Oh, see, it's like Takedo for wood.
Well, hey, any game where I could
Takedo for logging. There are better ways to say that. It's Takedo it's like heavy Takedo, basically.
Sure.
And I really don't enjoy Takedo, but there's more pre-planning in Lignum that makes it interesting for me, which I needed that extra. Yeah.
I thought maybe you were playing the new Catan expansion. You were trading your Lignum for wood.
Thank you.
Anybody have Takedo to trade?
Yes.
Goodness.
So, Bill,
yes, sir.
You right now have a game on Kickstarter.
We do, yes. The Mansky Caper. It is 1925, and Big Al Mansky is the most successful gangster in not only Chicago but around the country. And as a member of the family, you and your other members have decided that he's just getting a little too big for his britches. And since he's going to be out of town, we're all going to head down to Big Al Mansky's house, and we're going to rob the place. And the person who comes away with the most loot is going to be the new head of the family. The only problem is that Big Al doesn't trust people, and he doesn't trust banks and normal systems. His method of security is TNT and other explosives. So you're going to be going into the house, opening up the safes, drawing out the tokens in there to see what treasures you find, and the person with the most wins. The game itself has two really cool aspects to it. The first is the actual presentation itself. The game comes with 5 pre-assembled 3-dimensional safes. So each room is going to have a safe, and you're going to put the tokens inside. So you're drawing out of the safe itself. And this game has got, it's just, the box is literally full to the brim with stuff. We put in boxes themselves to put the different pieces in. Again, with all of our games, everything's pre-punched and ready to go, so you can just open it up and you're ready to go. There's actually plastic gems in there, three-dimensional safes, rooms, all that kind of stuff. So it's just a lot of stuff in the box. And the second aspect of it is that it is a pressure luck game, but when I draw the loot out of that particular thing, anyone who's in my room, we have to split it equally. And if there's extras, once we split equally, that sits in the room until more is drawn or until people leave the room. So as you're gathering your loot, you're putting it on top of your loot bag. You can't actually bank it till you go back to the car and store it. So any loot you have in the house, if you haven't stored it, if the room blows up, you lose that as well. So it's got a lot of pressure luck. You want to be social, but you to keep them from getting the stuff by themselves. But I want to be in this own room by myself. So it's got that aspect. And then the last thing is that everyone has their own power, special ability. So if you're Java Joey, you're drinking coffee all the time, you got the shakes, you're really kind of speeding up, and he can draw twice instead of once. So he has that ability, but it's considered a bit gauche to use your own ability. In this game, it's all about favors because we all have worked together over the years and we all owe each other favors. So I can't use my own power, but other people can call in a favor by giving me their favor token, which allows them to use my special ability. Only problem is that since everyone starts with one, as soon as I use it, I need to get another one. So the game kind of adds that extra level to the game of, hey, if you gave me your favor, you could use my ability. And it's almost like trying to convince people to buy your ability to get that back. So there's a lot. The game sort of almost calls you into that social aspect. And quite frankly, I have yet to play a game where by the end of it, people aren't talking in that gangster accent. It's like, come on, pal, come on. You want me to help you out. So, it really kind of creates the theater and the drama and really opens itself up to that. So
it mixes a cash and guns social element with an actual board with these three-dimensional safes full of loot.
Right. So you got a whole bunch of room cards. Each one has going to be a different mix of loot tokens, gasp tokens, and there's a deck of cards called gasp cards. And when you pull a gasp token, it's going to be some kind of plot twist that happens. Something's going to happen out of the ordinary and kind of change things up. And the third one is the danger tokens. And on that, there's, let's say, 3 of them in the room. Well, when the third one is pulled, the room is going to explode. So, you can see how many tokens are going into the box, and as they come out, they're left on the board, so you can see how many are left, kind of judging the odds. But it's going to kind of call in, like, when do I want to leave? When do I want to draw? When do I want to move to another room? How many people are here? Maybe I should go back to the car, but if I go back to the car, that means that this guy's going to get to draw, and he's going to get to keep all the loot. So it's got all those aspects of pressure luck. And it's also got some kind of, some negotiation aspect as well. So,
and how long does this take to play a game in the Manscaper?
Most games are going to be 45 minutes, maybe a little bit more. All of our games, again, part of our idea is that with our games, we want everything to be under an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it just seems like a lot going on for that. That's and an impressive amount of stuff too for that time frame.
Yeah, it is. But the game flows very quickly because, again, your decision is very simple. Do I want to pull something out of the safe in the room I'm in? Do I want to go to another room and pull something out of that one? Or do I want to go back to the car? So there's my choices. Reset. Make my choice. I'm going to shake, draw one out, and then do whatever it is I'm going to do. So the game tends to move fairly quickly. A lot of decisions are made. And at some point, each room is going to blow up. And once all the rooms are blown up, then the game's over with and we figure out who's got the most. Kickstarter is going to run till, a few more days. It's going to be up to, I think, February 9th. And,
it's funded.
It has funded. And just to be clear, the game is probably going to be a $40 game in stores. We're basically offering it at $32 level, pledge level, and that includes your shipping. So you're basically, you're getting a great game. We've made the decision not to do stretch goals, which some people love and some people hate. But when we designed this game, and Ken Franklin, who designed it, this was a labor of love for him, and we just wanted to put every single thing we could into the box. And that's the game. We literally can't fit anything else into this box. And so it's good to go. We do have one add-on level. We contacted Broken Token, and they designed wooden safes. So if you want to replace your cardboard safes with wooden safes, that's an extra $15. But other than that, and those are the exact same size. So again, you're just taking the cardboard safes out, dropping in the wooden safes, and you're good to go.
Those look pretty awesome.
It is really cool. Like I said, when I saw them for the first time, I was sitting there thinking to myself, okay, well, I don't know how strong a wooden safe is, but I definitely think I want one.
I think that's really cool that you didn't do stretch goals, just for the record.
Yeah, we had some people who were like, well, I kind of like, because it makes it exciting. But on the other hand, our feeling was, I don't know about you, but when I look at a lot of Kickstarters these days and I look at it and I go, okay, so since they've got stretch goals up to $120,000, that's already in the game. It's, they're just, they're going to do it anyway. And so we figured, let's bother that. Let's make the best game we can and then put it out there. If people do have questions, obviously you can go on the Kickstarter page and ask. Also, if you tweet to @ManskyCaper, MANSKY, Mansky Caper, Big Al is actually on Twitter keeping an eye on things. So if you have any questions, or if you've pledged and you just want to let him know that you're coming to rob his house, he'll be absolutely willing to respond to you. So at Mansky Caper on Twitter, if you want.
This is what Bill was talking about, selling the theme.
Absolutely.
So Kimberly, are you there?
I am here.
Do you have some questions?
Well, I am preparing his rapid fire.
Oh my
Bill,
goodness.
Are you familiar with the rapid fire segment?
I am not.
Of course not, which makes it so much better.
So while Kimberly prepares them, I'll just give you a super quick rundown. Kimberly is going to tell you 5 random questions, and you are just going to have to answer them as fast as humanly possible without thinking or stalling for time.
That's okay.
Right. And this sounds easier than it is. I remember when I was asked my rapid fire, and Bill said to me, what's your favorite game to play with 5 players? And P.S., I almost never play with 5 players. So I must have taken like a minute and a half, which is like the longest pause ever. But I was like, So don't be like me, Bill.
All right.
Don't be like Eric. But it'll be the last thing we do before we do our final plugs. So if there are any other questions anybody would like to ask Bill, speak now or forever hold your peace, children.
Hey, I'm just going to throw out there, somebody in the chat room also pointed out behind you, Tsuro behind you is a great Great Way game. That's a Calliope game.
Absolutely. It's our bestseller. And one of the things about Tsuro, which I think is fascinating, and I love doing this, it's almost like I dream of people at conventions asking me how to play, because I can literally teach the game in 10 to 15 seconds by pulling out 4 specific tiles. And, that to me, that's just so much fun when you basically grab 3 tiles that have, the person's moving across the tile from left to right. And you put the person on the corner of the board, 2 spaces up and 3 spaces over, and, it's like a 2-player game. And you play the first one and the guy will move 1 space. This guy moves up 1, this guy moves up 1. And the last piece has a circle on it, and you place it so that the guy on the side moves off the board. So as you're explaining this game, you're like, you play a tile, you have to move. You can play a tile, and you're going to move yourself along the path. You have to play this one for yourself, but if you make someone else move, they have to move also. When they leave the path, they leave the game. And you could just see people, like the light go on in people's eyes going, oh, okay, I got it. And, just anytime to my way of thinking, if I can teach someone to play a game in 10 or 15 seconds and see that reaction, like that's a win for me.
Yeah.
We have one before we get to your rapid fire. We do have one question from the chat room from Ben, and that is Calliope accepting game idea submissions?
Oh, that's a good question.
Absolutely. We it's possible. Go to our website and check it out. There's information on how to make those arrangements to make a presentation to us. We do have an NDA, non-disclosure agreement that we ask you to review and sign beforehand for your protection and for ours. But we absolutely will do that as long as that's all taken care of ahead of time. If a person shows up at a convention and says, can I show you a game? Our response is going to be, we can't look at it until you've kind of done the paperwork and do the due diligence.
Spell the name of the company.
Calliope. Calliope.
Score it. I just typed that in the chat room.
There you go. I've been spelling it wrong all night in my search engine. So.
Well, this is why I'm an editor for a living.
That's right.
Okay, Bill, are you mentally prepared?
I am.
No, you're not.
Probably not, but I like your enthusiasm. So.
Thank you.
I don't know that there is a way to fully be mentally and emotionally prepared for what the mess that is rapid fire.
All right.
As Eric pointed out, you cannot stall for time. You can't repeat the question. It can't be like, hey, what's your favorite chip? And have you go, oh, my favorite chip is, do you ask for favorite chip? Don't do that. We're catching on to you.
Doritos anyway.
Just the faster you can answer, the better. The more chaotic, the more entertaining, obviously. Right. We've had plenty of people who seem like they're having a slight stroke when we rapid fire them, so no worries. I personally freaked out and yelled the wrong thing during my own, so we've got this.
All right, go ahead.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Favorite Disney character?
Maleficent.
Favorite game that starts with the letter S?
Right now, Shutterbug, since that's one of our new games.
Best day of the week?
Best day of the week is Friday.
Least favorite game mechanic?
Blind bidding.
Okay. And your very favorite part of any board game convention?
The dealer's room.
Done. Good job, you.
That was way too tremendous. Easy. And he even plugged one of his games there.
I know.
Tremendous.
That is ridiculous. Not once did you flub up there. All right. Go ahead and plug anything that you would like to plug now, Bill.
Well, aside from Mansky Caper on Kickstarter right now, we just, in December, we released our 3 new Titan series of games. For those who aren't familiar with it, the Titan series is going to be a series of 12 games. We're going to release 3 per year. The first 3 in 2016, 2017 is the next 3 this year, 3 next year. These are all games designed by fantastic titans of the gaming industry: Richard Garfield, Eric Lang, James Ernest, Mike Elliott, a lot of fantastic designers. Each of the games, we try to keep it at $30 or less. And they're accessible games. You open it up, you're ready to play right out of the box. They're games that are easy to teach, fun to play, and play in under an hour. And I think there's just some fantastic games that I think a lot of times heavier gamers are going to say, well, it's just a gateway game. But, when you look at a Mike Elliott or a James Ernest, who've designed some games that, are in different spaces, and given them the challenge of design a game that's a gateway game that takes one mechanic, explains it well. And these guys just really have risen to the challenge. And there's some exciting stuff going on. Eric Lang's Ancestry is just a brilliant drafting game. James Ernest, Capital City. Mike Elliott is a set collection. And it's kind of a moving around the board and collecting your sets. You're a photographer trying to get pictures of these fantastic mythological creatures running around the United States, and then sell those pictures to the tabloids. They've really hit it out of the park, and they've got some fantastic designs. Don't overlook them just because they're gateway games.
And I like I said at PAX Unplugged, I got to visit the Calliope booth and demo Ancestry and Capital City, and I'll vouch for both of them. I think both of them were really good games. I plan on picking up Capital City to play with my kids as well.
Well, thank you. Excellent choice.
And where can people find out more about Calliope Games on the internet?
Well, if you go to Facebook and look up Calliope Games, we're there. Our website is calliopegames.com, and we're on Twitter and Calliope Games as well.
Nice. Very good. All right, Mr. Patrick Hillier.
I am on the Twitters at Over the Hillier, and of course on the What Did You Play This Week podcast, where I now am once a month. I'm doing the conversation thing. And
Brown
every other
chicken
week
brown
doing
cow.
doing chatting about board games and stuff.
Board games and stuff. That happens to be my favorite things to talk about.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do that.
And how about you, Mr. Eric Buscemi? Thank you for taking over the show for me, by the way.
My pleasure. I am on Twitter at Eric Buscemi. I write as the Cardboard Horde, which you can find on punchboardmedia.com. And I am also a contributor for the What Did You Play This Week podcast. So all over the place.
Hey, are we part of a media network?
We are. That's what I was just going to get to. And we are members, proud members of Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. One of these days, we're going to all say it at the same time.
Something is Doritos tonight.
Oh my
something
goodness.
we are bringing to the
Okay,
table.
The chat room is like all about Doritos. I want to go get some Doritos.
Like a Dorito sponsorship next week, guys.
The Dorito peanuts that Brandon had looked so gross.
Oh, what are Dorito peanuts? No.
They're peanuts coated in Dorito dust.
Oh, no, thank you. Nope. Yeah. I'm not here for that. Thank you so much, Bill, for joining us.
No problem. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I am Kimberly Revia at KJ Revia on Twitter. And I am a co-founder of the Granite Game Summit, which is coming up soon, March 9th through the 11th in New Hampshire. If anybody is interested in looking to come, I know plenty of people in the chat will be there. So
as will I.
As well. Oh, yeah, duh. And Eric.
So easily forgettable.
I love you, Eric. All right. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.